Back to the Nutrimedical Report. We have Ryan here from FRACE.
Hey, Dr. Bell.
Ryan, I'd like to talk about and expand on an area that I think is very big, the area of, I call diabesity. And I want to talk about a few nutraceuticals we don't often talk about that are actually part of our NutriMed line. The first one I want to mention is the conversion of white fat to brown fat, which is a very big deal. It turns out that leukotriene B4, and I did a video this weekend and getting lots of hits on YouTube and Vimeo, reviewing the latest literature from the PubMed, and the issue that there are certain nutraceuticals we have, our topical curcumin cream, which should be applied to areas where people are obese, to actually mobilize and convert white fat to brown fat. Our oral new super form of curcumin called Cell Defense Plus, which is the most advanced curcumin supplement on the planet. We have forskolin, and we have also one of our NutriMed line is called Lipo Flush, which is conjugated linoleic acid to mobilize fat into fat storage and convert white to brown fat. This is a very major thing. We also have things to release or to lower insulin resistance, diabetoline, of course, and lowers insulin resistance, and leptin metabolic. And we have berberstatin to lower glucagon production, because glucagon is a primary driver. In fact, a lot of the new diabetic drugs are based on the idea of glucagon-like peptides, GLP peptides, because they block the conversion through the one-carbon pathway of protein in the liver to sugar. Which is a big deal, because your sugar can be higher in the morning after you haven't had a meal, because your liver's working overtime all night to make sugar. So your blood sugar in the morning could be higher than it was after a big meal in the supper time. So we have all these things. Then we have, of course, the Green Tea Select, which each capsule equivalent to 10 pots of green tea. The green tea catechins are very powerful stimulant to burn off calories and to mobilize them. And, of course, people should understand that mitochondrial support is extremely important, because everyone who has elevated blood insulin levels also has type 2 hypothyroidism, which means they're going to make a higher level of reverse thyroid hormone. So they're all basically in the form of marginal hypothyroidism to severe hypothyroidism caused by high levels of insulin resistance and the production of this blocking or reverse thyroid hormone called RT3, which you can measure and can be tested by your doctor. So let's talk about some of these things, like, Green Tea Select and Cell Defense Plus, and
huge area.
This is a huge area, and by the way, this is a basis for many of the diseases. For example, if you've got insulin resistance syndrome, and it can go down different pathways, you can develop osteoarthritis of your joints, which we now also say leptin metabolic, along with our anti-inflammatories, Inflamex and Cell Defense Plus are very important, and things to rebuild the joints, such as tendon mender and joint performance, and Collagen Max are important. But people don't see the genesis that elevated insulin resistance is a driver for the fatty liver, it's a driver for obesity, it's a driver for peripheral neuropathy, and we even know that Alzheimer's disease is basically diabetes of the brain, where the astrocytes stop transporting sugar through the GLUT4 transporter in the astrocytes and can't form an action potential, so that, in a sense, the primary driver of Alzheimer's is basically diabetes of the brain. Interesting.
Yeah, it's really, more and more as research comes out, they just link back to the fact that if you want to know why the fire is burning in our bodies, it's usually going to have a lot to do with how we handle, our glucose levels and how much insulin we have to produce. And so, if we can get that managed more effectively, and obviously the recommendations of exercise, very important, because exercise induces basically like an emergency escape valve so that sugar can be brought into the cells, which is always a great thing to think about.
And the best exercise you can do, by the way, is vibrational exercise. 10 minutes of VibraSlim is equivalent to the metabolic effect of an hour of aerobic exercise.
And then you, on top of that, like you're saying, with like diabetoline, what a great formulation. I will say Vitamineral Max really needs to be the foundation, though, for everybody's multivitamin, because it really is designed with the intention of helping, the population that's really getting, stuck with regards to
you need both, because
manage glucose.
The step one for anti-aging is to replace and rebalance the minerals that your body needs for major, minor, and I'll explain this. That every structural protein and every enzyme in your body requires the presence of a mineral in the nucleoplasm, the nucleus of a cell, to turn on and off the genes to actually make the messenger RNA, to make the structural proteins and enzymes. And every enzyme, the active site, is a monoatomic superconductor form of a mineral, whether it's copper, zinc, manganese, etc. If those minerals are not present, the structural proteins don't get transcribed by the messenger RNA, and the enzymes don't exist. So people need to understand that the foundation of Vitamin Mineral Max, Minerals Plus, which is also, by the way, in our life support, if they don't have those protein amino acid chelates, because these are not just what we call a static ionic system, which is present in most people's diet or vitamins, they're not going to absorb them. That's why you have to have special transport mechanisms in order to get it into the cell. And a protein chelate means it's actively transported. Now, you've got to take what you need. That's why we do testing, things like QRMA and blood testing to see what people's imbalances are. But we can tell you right off that diabetics, our soil is depleted of chromium, vanadium, zinc, copper, and selenium. And when you see these deficiencies, it's not surprising we're all turning diabetic. It's not surprising we're all getting osteoarthritis, Alzheimer's disease, autism spectrum disorder, and ADD, because they're all tied together to basically tissue inflammation. We also have an imbalance of fatty acids, so people don't take enough omega fatty acids like omega supreme pro or omega krill, and those pro-inflammatory fatty acids screw up our cell membranes and our signaling systems, so we have excessive inflammation like leukotriene B4, which they found directly affects adipocytes, macrophages, and tissues, and induces the diabetic changes like neuropathy, organic brain damage, heart failure, where the mitochondria get negatively affected. All these are tied together, and they may have different faces, but the underlying process is very similar. So people say, well, why do I need to take leptin metabolic for osteoarthritis? It's because everybody who has osteoarthritis is elevated blood insulin. They may not have frank diabetes, but their blood insulin's high. They also may have dyslipidemia and even fatty liver. So you have to understand there's a constellation of things that in each individual person may be slightly different. Some of them may not be obese, but they may have terrible hand or large joint or osteoarthritis, and it's directly activated by inflammatory pathways. So if you draw their synovial fluid off their joints, you see high levels of cytokines caused by what we call their angry or white fat, and caused by elevated blood insulin levels, and caused by mineral deficiencies to stop, for example, deficiencies of superoxide dismutase 1 and 2 and glutathione peroxidase, which is why you need cell defense and Inflamex to stop the inflammation. That's why you need, in diabetics, Nutri-Trala to neutralize these free radicals, and things like our carnosine D-link, and things to actually stop the free radicals in the body, like gamma E+, because you're getting peroxynitrate. I mean, the levels of inflammation in a person who is diabetic, like C-reactive protein and other markers, is orbital. And it's not surprising they get inflamed joints or osteoarthritis. It's all tied together, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, where does the fire, kind of eventually spread to? That's hard to determine. But the fact that there's a fire burning in your body, that's not hard to determine. So everybody, there are tests you can do now. They're not typical tests, but there are tests available, and your insurance, believe it or not, covers most of them. So I need to just tell you, and you can go to your doctor and say, do this and that, like measure reverse thyroid hormone, do your thyroid, measure C-reactive protein and other inflammatory markers and cytokines, and you can do it, and the blood test will simply say, oh my gosh, no wonder I'm a mess. I got a lot of inflammation in my body. Well, you didn't take enough fatty acids like omega supreme or krill. I think you haven't. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's also important if people are skeptical, they take that baseline, then they know, as they follow your recommendations, they follow up, they get retest, they can really see what's being worked on, versus which I know most people, at one point in their life or another is they supplement and they have no idea really what they're shooting for. They're just going after the generalities, like you said, lose weight, strip some fat out, something like that. They have no idea what's really going on deep in the body and the shifts that can occur if you get the right nutrients in there. As you're saying, bioavailable, Dr. Bill, the omega fatty acids, can you truly integrate them into the cell membrane effectively like you are with Omega Supreme Pro? And, there's just so much it's like the information for a lot of people. It's like taking a surgical approach. For example, when I was a resident in family internal medicine, I remember assisting at the surgery to do stomach stapling from a number of Mormons from Cardston, which is 95% of the town. It's a pretty big town, 100,000 people are Mormon, and there's a lot of obesity there because they don't drink and they don't smoke, but they sure as heck eat. And when we would do their stomach stapling, 1/3 of people lost 1/3 of their weight for 5 years. The other two, it didn't matter if we stapled them because we never approached their metabolism problem.
These people, I had 2 master's level dietitians in my office where we would analyze these people. We had a huge practice. I mean, I had, in my practice in Calgary, Alberta, I had over 20,000 patients, and the vast majority of them were Mormon because I bought them from the Mormon prophet's daughter's husband's brother. And there was a high level of obesity, and we would actually measure their metabolism and weigh everything on scales and so on. And what we discovered is these people had abysmally low metabolism rates. Their core body temperature was low, their blood levels of insulin. So I started doing work with the head of pathology, and we did insulin glucose tolerance tests. We were the first ones to do it in the world. It was based on research from Dr. Kraft at the University of Chicago. This is 36 years ago. And when I brought my data to Dr. Ron Kari at the Diabetic Research Institute, he had a fit. It was like being on the set of The Exorcist. He got so angry with me that I suggested the diabetics buy insulin. He was cursing and swearing and throwing things around his office and threatening that he was going to have me before the provincial registrar for daring to suggest that this was the case. And then he found out that it was the head of pathology doing the work under an order from the courts to measure blood insulin levels. And then he really got mad. So you have to understand, when you break paradigms with people who think they know better than you, and unfortunately, over my career, it's been a lot of disasters where my colleagues have thought they knew better than me, and they didn't. And it's not to be arrogant, it's because I ask a lot more questions in medical school and residency than anybody else I know. And when I try to get, like a good carpenter, measure twice, cut once, what I discovered is most of the things where there's the basis for cancer, autoimmune disease, and so on. And as my knowledge increased in the percentages of drugs that I would provide in my practice, say 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, gradually shrunk and shrunk and shrunk until eventually I got in trouble. I remember one drug rep walked into my office in Denver, and she said, "Dr. Deagle, you're not prescribing our drug or our competitors." And I said, "How would you know that?" She threw down a 50-page document with histograms and pie charts. And I said, "Where did you get the data?" He said, "We used your DEA number." I said, "You got to be kidding." And she said, "My boss is thinking about reporting it to the state board because you're not providing Zocor, Lipitor, Crestor, or even our competitors' HMG-CoA reductase inhibitor," which, by the way, our omega cod liver liquid will lower your cholesterol equally and prevent plaque. But these people were so angry because I wouldn't prescribe a drug, even their competitor's drug. So you got to understand out there, Dr. Deagle has got creds, okay? There's nobody like me on the planet. There may be people that have some creds, but nobody has gone through the crap that I have, period, okay? And I did my PhD project finished at age 21 in 5 months of marine genetics by sleeping on the lab floor, so I'm not exactly stupid. So when I tell you these things about diabetes and somebody who's got bad osteo, they have to understand, if we measure their fasting and 2-RPC blood insulin and their cytokine levels, or draw their synovial fluid and see their nitric oxide and peroxynitrate radical and cytokines in their joint, whether they have a rheumatoid nodule with rheumatoid arthritis and mycoplasma incognita or some other pathogen present, there's a direct link. The whole thing, for example, if you've got diabetes or prediabetes, your chances of getting cancer are 600% higher. Your chances of having a heart attack, your chances of having Alzheimer's disease are 600% higher. And do you think your doctor is going to do anything to intervene to prevent that from happening? Not on your life. They're going to try to bring your blood sugar and your hemoglobin A1C down because they're going to control your numbers, not your destiny. Disturbing, isn't it?
Sad, misguided, So
yeah, and that's why we don't have a healthcare system. We've got a death management system. I call it a pre-embalming system, being sarcastic. It's like I came up with a term yesterday with our news media. I call it the mushroom media. You keep people in the dark and you feed them BS. And the same thing with the healthcare system. Look at Obamacare. Now we've got a system where 86% of people can't even afford the co-pays, let alone the insurance. And it doesn't really intervene to say, hey, we'll look at the whole global thing before you even have symptoms. What's screwed up in your body, including your genetics. And everybody, for example, should have, like they have in Japan, a health card that tells what gene SNPs they have for detoxifying drugs. Because if you get the wrong combination of drugs and you've got a gene polymorphism like 2D6 or 3A4, your blood levels are going to go into orbit, and you could die from a cardiac arrhythmia simply because you're blocking the drug metabolism to get rid of it. And the research for this was the University of Ohio 30 years ago, and the Japanese, when they came to America, said, oh, well, very smart, very smart. And they put it in their healthcare system, and every single Japanese has a health card with their gene SNPs of their polymorphisms on. But in America, do we have that? No. And then, by the way, this is not weird stuff. This is science. just like if I get a 23andMe and gene polymorphisms and Prometheus analysis. So when I tell people you got to make sure you get your blood insulin level down, your insulin resistance, sugar is the devil. It's the devil. I don't mind you if you have a 21 grain bread, but you cannot be eating, candy bars and ice cream and all kinds of crap that's loaded with sugar and expect to control your osteoarthritis. Now, you want to take anti-inflammatories like Inflamex and Cell Defense Plus, and you can topically put on DHEA and pregnenolone because your body will manufacture the anti-inflammatories transdermally. And you can even add curcumin to that because curcumin, even over areas where you're obese, will actually transform that white fat to brown fat. Because we're dying of white fat. We're dying of elevated blood insulin and cytokine levels that are coursing through our bloodstream, frying our brain and our eyeballs, so we're going blind. And we're also depressing our immune system, so we got all kinds of weird pathogens growing in places they have no business growing because our immune system is suppressed. So Ryan, I want to introduce this thing about diabesity. I call it, I can put the two terms together, diabesity, D-I-A-B-E-S-I-T-Y, because diabetes and obesity, and there's also, I could expand it to diabetes, arthritis, and Alzheimer's disease. You can make a long list of everything that's all tied to the same basic underlying problem, including cancer. If you have elevated blood insulin levels and elevated cytokines, your chances of getting any form of cancer are a hell of a lot higher.
Well, I think people are kind of just taking the basic parameters that are known for metabolic syndrome, Dr. Bell. It's good, in the sense that some people are like, well, I don't have the labs. I'm not sure. Is this an issue for me? You're like, well, you should know general things about yourself.
That's why, for example, the anti-cancer effect of activating PPAR gamma, now I want you to expand this Cell Defense Plus. PPAR gamma activation is extremely important to get rid of cancer mother cells. The only pager supplement I know that will get rid of cancer mother cells, even after you survive cancer, what percentage of people have cancer mother cells ready to turn into cancer, which usually becomes radiation and cancer drug resistant? The only one that gets rid of them is Cell Defense Plus. It actually gets rid of the cancer mother cells and actually stops cells from transforming under chronic hypoxic and toxic load to turn into cancer. So if you're taking the Cell Defense Plus and you're taking other things like our xenoestrogen detox and you're taking things to protect your DNA like ellagic acid and fat-soluble thiamine, because the transketolase enzyme activation prevents cancer cell transformation. And the most important one of all is Cell Defense Plus. If people say, well, I had cancer, I said, well, you better be taking our Maligna block, which is sulforaphane glycosylate, and you better be taking ellagic acid and ultrathiamine B1, but the most important of all is Cell Defense Plus, because it actually gets rid of the cancer mother cells, because they're still present in your bloodstream. And I've been referring for 30 years to labs in Germany to do cancer treatment based on genetics, and they can actually, through flow cytometry, pull your cancer mother cells off and say, oh yeah, there it is. They can see it on a scanning electron microscope or phase contrast microscopy with special labeling. They can find the little buggers. People need to understand this. This is real science. This is not, Dr. Deagle's theory. I'm referring to top clinics in the world, like in Germany, that have been doing, they're decades ahead of everybody else. So this is, and do you think your doctor knows this? Hell no. Are you kidding? It's not good for business. How many oncologists in America, now they're starting to, Cancer Treatment Centers of America, Brzezinski Clinic, we were led to charge. I had to support them financially in our Association of Physicians and Surgeons, AAPS, which, by the way, Drawn and Rand Paul belong to, have been fighting with the Texas State Medical Board for decades until finally they came on side in the FDA to actually do studies with them and say, you know what, gene-based cancer treatment is the next step. I don't recommend anybody thinking that they had cancer that they should think in their right mind that they'd better be taking Cell Defense Plus and Maligna block at the very least. What do you think, Ryan? And these are all tied together, by the way, and that's why I started off with diabesity, but it involves cancer and blindness.
Well, when you talk about diagnostic, giving people a true diagnosis and stuff like that, I think talking to probably the vast majority of people listening to you is saying, well, I don't have that direct issue, but the whole point is whether you have it or not, the potential.
There, but I want you to respond because we went off to break. I want you to kind of respond because when people see what Nutrimeds are, and by the way, these are very advanced, what I call medical grade, doctor grade nutraceutical tools. You're not going to find equivalent. For example, our anti-age max, which lengthens your telomeres. Our Cell Defense Plus Amazing curcumin. There's nothing like it on the planet. Our CoQ10 Supreme, the only CoQ10 on the planet that doesn't crystallize or polymerize and be biologically inactive. Our Omega Supreme Pro, the most powerful absorbed form of omega fatty acids on the planet. Nothing comparable. Our Power C Plus, the only neutral pH, not buffered, neutral pH. Vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, ascorbate with BioPerine black pepper extract to increase absorption 40 to 50%. There is nothing comparable. And the mouthfeel and taste of our drinks, Aegis, Life Support, NutriComplete, and Glycemics. People need to grasp this. And it's taking those tools and applying them with consultations. Most of them, I'll just do free. It's my ministry. You email me and I'll tell you what to take. Now, we do have some special customers that get access directly to the wellness condition. That's because they still will contact me, because I don't want you to think you can go off and just look at something 2 or 3 years old and you can figure it out yourself. Not. Just like you can't figure it out if you look at a QRMA or a metapathia scan or bioplasm and you think that somehow that test has got the supercomputer in it. No, the supercomputer is in between my ears. I will tell you what to do, and that's why I'm training doctors. Eventually, I will train other doctors with videos and other things how to do what I do, at least a portion of it, so they can practice this, whether in Bucharest or in Beijing or Kinshasa, some other place in Africa. People need to understand what we're trying to do is advance the science of what we call functional living pathology, which is called functional medicine. This didn't exist when I went to medical school. This is developed by me and thousands of other doctors around the world and PhD scientists, and it's in our Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, Environmental and Advancement of Medicine. And these academies are advancing the science at an enormous pace, faster than the space program. But you're not going to get access to your regular knucklehead doctor who has no training in it. You're not going to get access because they're going to give you polypharmacy or a limited period of surgical approaches, and they're going to make you sick or create new deficiency states. If you think you can get equivalent by going to VitaCost or Amazon and you're going to manage it yourself, you're going to waste your money and you're going to hurt yourself. So Ryan, please continue with your discussion you were saying. Because I think people should, you've got an expertise on each of these new supplements like our Omega Pro. These supplements are amazing. There's nothing like them on the planet.
Right, but your best offense is a good defense in the sense that you better just expect. You have to know that your body is fighting off, the development of cancer perpetually. And right. With regards to the stress levels we deal with, intake of bad food and drugs and all these different things, you're like, look, the utilization on an ongoing basis daily of things like Cell Defense Plus, it just makes total sense. You're saying bioavailable curcuminoids that can really talk to the cells and help the cells to identify what it is they need to defend against for detoxification, stimulating native antioxidant production, neutralizing oxidative radicals.
Yeah. And
so
if you're skeptical, we can measure those too. Right?
I think when people think about it, they're often going, well, that's not my particular condition. But in some ways, you have to look at some of these formulations. It wouldn't matter. These are foundational that you should be considering long-term. And many people probably already take some forms of curcumin. They just don't know anything about bioavailability. They do not know the clinical lab testing that's been done to truly measure what's known as free curcuminoids in the blood, where most of the tests are done. They will pull blood tests of curcumin on products, and they'll actually have to inject a separate enzyme to release the curcuminoids, meaning it's not really getting into your body the way it needs to. And that's why a lot of the products that are in the marketplace are very low in their impact on the body, very low. And Cell Defense Plus, as you were saying, there's really nothing like it. It's the most researched form of curcumin on the planet. So.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, these are not 2 or 3 or 4 star. These are 7-star nutraceuticals, and applied with proper functional medical science, testing, labs, imaging, and quantum testing like QRMA and metapathia, you can actually win. You can win and get your health back. Back in just a minute. By the way, I've got a new capacity now. We have the live stream full video platform, so I'd like to do some review of some of the nutraceuticals separately sometime. So you just need to give me a time window and we can do that on video. You won't be on video, but what we want to do is we want to just put the product up, explain exactly some more details that we can do on the show. I want to run through a couple of other things. Vision. The eye is a metabolically active tissue. We use Vision Max. I recommend the Can-C eye drops. We use, of course, things to protect the eye. Omega fatty acids, omega supreme krill especially, the ultrathymine B1 fat-soluble thiamine, and Cell Defense Plus to stop free radicals in the eye, and Gamma E Plus and CoQ10. CoQ10 ubiquinol especially is particularly eye protective, along with the gamma tocopherol and Gamma E Plus. Eye care is really, really difficult. If you're diabetic, we recommend, of course, the Nutrimedical long-acting alpha-lipoic acid. And to reduce cytokines in the eye, Cell Defense Plus again. And, Cell Defense Plus should be poked into a lot of protocols for converting white fat to brown fat, protecting against diabetic changes, preventing cancer cell transformation, and the inflammatory cytokines in not only joints but in tissues like the eye and the brain. That's why, for example, the rate of Alzheimer's disease and heart disease and cancer in India, and they're only getting orally in their diet maybe 3 to 5 to 6 to 7 milligrams of curcumin that's absorbable, whereas we get hundreds of milligrams of super highly absorbed form in our special supplements that's many, many times higher than the levels even in the Indian diet that gives such great protection from many illnesses. So do you want to talk about Vision Max for a moment, which is also, by the way, what we use for prostate? And I had another email from a gentleman from Quebec, Canada, who was taking finasteride, which is an anti-testosterone drug. It's a drug, and it has nasty, nasty side effects. For prostate, we recommend Prostate Flow. This is a whole new formula upgraded a few months ago. Super powerful. We recommend, of course, the Vision Max for the prostate gland. It has the same components to protect the eye and the prostate. And we also recommend to prevent the stimulation of the Ergenlagen, that's the German term for the same tissue that's in the female for the uterus and in the male for prostate, for bioconversion of hormones to actually cause the gland to grow. And then the use of xenoestrogen detox that pulls the xenotoxins that actually will make your prostate grow because of these toxins present that are false hormones like bisphenol A, etc. You need to get these darn things out of your body. So let's talk about this remote. Prostate's not an easy thing because with our current environment and diet, prostatism starts to strike men in their 30s, and by the time you're 70, you have a chance of about 1 in 2 or less of getting prostate cancer.
Yeah, goes back to that same theme, expect that it's coming, so the things you can do to offset the damage and prevent and push it, well past the years that you'll be living, which is a beautiful thing to think about. You can go ahead and get prostate cancer, but let's make it happen when you're 110, but you're already in the ground and you don't care.
No, by the way, actually, an interesting thing, when you're over 100 years of age and you get cancer, it's like having a wart. It grows so slow you could be 200 and it won't kill you. Cancer only kills you when you're young enough that it grows fast enough it can kill you for spread. When you're really old,
get everybody to that point,
if you're over 100 years of age, for example, cancer is never going to kill you. Even if you live to be 150, which is going to happen in the next century. You're going to see people becoming bicentennials by the end of the 21st century. So you're going to start seeing the first bicentennial, 200 years old. We want to have the quality that we can for as long as we can, and I'll tell you, that's what you're talking about here, Dr. Bill, is there's a lot of things you can do to interrupt the degradation that's occurring in our bodies, and like you said, the eyes become an extremely susceptible tissue. They're just completely unprotected. Yeah, the other thing that we use for the eyes besides the ultrasound B1 is Vein-Away diosmin, and it protects the microcirculation in the eye. And the eye design is kind of weird, to be honest with you. You look at it and say, well, what? Was God having a bad day that time? Because the Brooks membrane and the actual vessels are above the rods and cones, so the light actually has to descend through the Brooks membrane and the vessels before it actually gets to the light-sensing rods and cones on the back of your eye and the retina. That's kind of strange, isn't it? Because if you have a hemorrhage in there or a capillary leakage, you go blind because your blood flow is above your rods and cones. That's kind of strange, right?
I will defer to the good Lord on that one, and probably has a very darn good reason. He said, no, if I put it somewhere else, something else would happen. So he's sure
my guess is that
on that level.
You better listen to God's diet, which he has, by the way, through the Bible. So you maintain a healthier vessels so they don't leak. they don't end up with
Right.
a hemorrhage, and they don't get microcirculatory problems.
Well, that's what I was just going to refer back to is going. But he provided for as much damage as we're gonna take. He's provided those solutions, and the ability, like you said, with the advancement of science and the understanding of nutrition, that you can, in supplementation, start delivering these really powerful antioxidants to offset the damage that goes on in the body, and that's for the eyes and prostate and many of the other areas of the body that we know are highly susceptible to being damaged and to causing cellular abnormalities and lack of function. And so, that's what's beautiful right now is it continually pours out about how powerful it is if you do go back to what God's given us to work with here on Earth and not just manipulate a molecule to a synthetic and jam it in there and decide that, I'm flipping the switch on or off. Versus,
Let's say if you're trying to rebuild joints, you want collagen max, you want our tendon bender joint performance. The one that we haven't talked about for a while is Semethyl. It, number one, supports digestive enzymes, rebuilding all the cartilage, and the methylation pathways for removing heavy metals and biotoxins. Methylation is one of the primary processes in the liver. So let's talk about Semethyl. If you're wanting to rebuild joints, if you're trying to build a detox pathway for heavy metals, if you're trying to do methylation pathways for removing biotoxins out of the body, if you're trying to actually protect the integrity of joints, there's nothing like Semethyl. It's amazing stuff. And you can't restore digestive enzymes unless you have methylation pathway support. So acetylmethionine and Semethyl is very important. I remember seeing them in my first emergency department where we had a firefighter who got such exposed to toxic smoke. He came in and basically was heading into semi-coma. And we gave him an intravenous of acetylmethionine, and literally in minutes he was up walking around. And if we had done that, he would have had to be on dialysis for 24 hours in an induced coma because the toxic chemicals were likely to induce seizures on him. So just to protect him, we would put him in an induced coma and put him on dialysis. And all he needed was 5 minutes of the acetylmethionine, and the toxins literally were yanked right out of his body. It's amazing. Chemical toxins. The next one I'd like to talk about is the idea of our creams. We have pregnenolone cream, we have DHEA cream, we have the progesterone cream, which is we call femgesterone or progesterone cream. We have curcumin. And I tell people if you have an inflamed joint, you want to slap on the DHEA and pregnenolone, and you actually may on the third level add some curcumin as well for removal or reduction of cytokines. But DHEA and pregnenolone is very effective around joints, tissues, inflammation of the skin, even turning off sunburns. Let's talk about this for a minute. These are transdermal creams. They bypass the liver. They go directly to the tissues. So if you have a tendon or ligament or inflamed joints, and I've had them just recently after travel, and I can tell you these are amazing things, the DHEA and pregnenolone, aren't they?
Well, just in the bigger context of absorption, it's just another methodology to be able to more specifically apply to an area and as you say, to enhance its absorption. So they really do provide a good option for a lot of people that have compromised digestion and other difficulties.
Now, one of the things that we see is delayed myelination in Alzheimer's disease and ADD, ADHD, and delayed developmental disorders. And Neurogen provides the docosahexaenoic acid. In fact, it's a law in Japan. You can't provide a child's replacement milk in the pharmacy or the grocery store unless it contains DHA. It's against the law in Japan. And that research came from America, by the way. We do the research, and these other countries make it part of their law, which I think is kind of funny. It's not the law here. So DHA is very important stuff. Fatty acids are important. We have our Omega Supreme, our Omega Supreme Krill with astaxanthin. Let's talk about these for a minute. And our new Omega Supreme Pro, which is a new super high absorb form. Let's talk about that because the Pro is going to be coming on here very shortly. We have had Omega Supreme. These are the highest quality omega fatty acids. If you want to turn off, say, joint inflammation or vessel inflammation or brain, you have to have the Pro anti-inflammatory fatty acids to replace and rebuild those cell membranes. So Ryan, do you have some comments about Omega Krill and Omega Supreme Pro, and so Omega Cod Liver Liquid too? I think we lost our signal for Ryan.
Bill, I got cut off there. I was trying to get back to you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about our omega fatty acids: Omega Supreme, Omega Supreme Pro, Omega Krill, Supreme Krill, and of course the Omega Cod Liver Liquid.
So Omega Supreme Pro is, I want to mention on this because we've had Omega Supreme for a long time, and it's going through this transition to a new upgraded formulation, the Omega Supreme Pro, and the reasoning behind that is really a massive breakthrough, really, in the industry, which allows the fatty acid to basically be supplemented in a certain percentage as a monoglyceride. So when we take in fats, we've got to break them down through the enzymatic process, and we've got to move them to either free fatty acid or a monoglyceride format to get the absorption. And so we know that most people are compromised in digestive issues. And when you take a typical fish oil, they're using a triglyceride or ethyl ester format that's got to go through, again, these enzymatic processes that are compromised. And so by using this new one, this Pro version, Omega Supreme Pro, you're basically able to crank up the absorption, meaning you do not have to use anywhere near as much as you possibly did before. So an example would be what people have used as Omega Supreme. The size of the capsule will be half the size, about the approximate width of a dime. And so it's much easier for swallowing capabilities, and to take in the equivalent basically on one capsule that's that size would be the equivalent of actually taking about 1.5 of the current Omega Supremes for your EPA and DHA content. So this is a massive breakthrough, and it should draw a lot of attention for people that certainly don't want to choke down the larger size capsules, one, but two, maximize what they're actually getting into their bodies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. A lot of people don't realize also that you need all these minerals, and of course, what I do in the morning, I make up what I call mine and my daughter Kelsey's syrup, and I put all the drinks together. I mean, I put glycemics, Life Support, NutriComplete, etc., and I'll throw in some Omega Cod Liver Liquid. It's a fantastic flavor. I mean, it's my breakfast, and it's my breakfast, and it gets me through my lunch. So I'll have a light snack after. That's a low glycemic snack, and most likely I'll probably just have a big glass of glycemics drink as my midday meal. But that combination of drinks provides you with all your minerals and your vitamins and your fatty acids and everything. It's just amazing. It rocks stable blood sugar, neurotransmitters, keeps you calm, keeps your blood pressure down, and stabilizes your autonomic nervous system. And as I tell people, everybody is cloning themselves into a healthier body in the future or an unhealthier body, depending on their diet and lifestyle. It takes 7 years to reclone yourself, but no one's older than a 7-year-old. And you can prove it. The longest tissue that it takes to replace is 7 years. Some tissues, like the lining of your GI tract, are only 4 days. And there are some tissues that persist, like some neurons. But beyond some persisting neurons in your brain, every tissue is pretty well replaced. It's amazing, isn't it? Your bones, your ligaments, your connective tissues, your joints, everything is being replaced gradually, step by step, as you go to sleep. You release melatonin, you go to stage 4 sleep, your stem cells come out, they decide to do all their work. They're like Santa's elves, only Christmas is every night when you go to sleep, when you go to stage 4 dream sleep, when you actually rebuild yourself. That's what I call clone sleep. That's when you're cloning yourself into the future. That's why people that get a little bit more sleep at night and better quality with it's another product is melatonin time release. And prepare yourself during the day to keep yourself calm is the Calm Mind and Brain Mag. Let's talk about these for a minute, because if you want high quality sleep during the day, have some Calm Mind and Brain Mag, a double dosage an hour before bed, and take melatonin TR 1 to 3 an hour before sleep, and you're going to sleep like a baby. 1 milligram per tablet, immediate release, and 4 milligrams slow release melatonin. And you should time it, by the way, because every 180 minutes you go through what's called a melatonin cycle. Your brain actually cycles every 180 minutes, and it does that so many times a day that you can actually figure out what the time window is when you should be taking your higher dosage Calm Mind Brain Mag and when you should be taking your melatonin TR, so it peaks right at the time when your brain is saying, yes, it's time to go and put my head on the pillow. And I tell people an hour before bed, make sure you're not exposed to blue light. That's why even the computers now and the iPads will switch to red light graphics so you don't have blue light coming in your eyeball. You should be listening to music, reading a book, or doing something that's not blue light dependent activity, and the brain starts to shut down. So Ron, let's talk about these for a minute. Calm Mind, Brain Mag, and Melatonin TR for insomnia.
Dr. Bill, you know I love Calm Mind. Love it.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff.
One of the best ones out there. Good for the whole family, really. It usually starts with one person and then moves on to the next.
Yeah, and they get addicted to it. And by the way, it's good for kids. If you have a hyperactive kid, if you have a person that's tense or stressed, if you have a person that's has hypertension, their autonomic system is kind of tuned up, and like cat, they say, like a cat in a hot tin roof. You gotta calm yourself down. And the Calm Mind and Brain.
Who knows anybody like that, Dr. Bill?
Oh yeah, everybody's stressed nowadays.
Who knows anybody that's got stress and anxiety? Here we go. Didn't you call it stressness last year?
I did. I've changed the name. I come up with these deagleisms. I came up with a new thing for the media too. I call it the mushroom media. They keep everybody in the dark and they feed them BS. But stressmas is a term that should be tied to what I call the Grinch who stole Christmas. But it is stressmas because people try to do so much. Whether they're singing or they're traveling or they're visiting relatives or they're buying everything or they're putting up decorations or taking them down or trying to have parties and eating too much and eating the wrong foods and eating all kinds of sugar, and their bowels are in an uproar and they're gaining weight, and there's more diagnosis of cancer, heart disease, and major health problems at or just after Christmas any other time of the year. Is because they stress the heck out of their body, and that's why I call it stressmas. You got to stabilize yourself and get adequate sleep and make sure you time yourself so you don't try to do too much. But the nutraceuticals will help buffer that. So you can do enough, but not blow it. Blow your health. Or your blood sugar. Turn diabetic or anything like that. So Calm Mind and Brain Mag, a scoop each three times a day and 2 scoops before bedtime each. And the melatonin time release, and you'll sleep like a baby. On side, a lot of what we're doing is teaching a whole new paradigm of what health is and what disease is. We're teaching them that imbalances, deficiencies, and that nutraceuticals targeted toward the physiological imbalances or problems are superior to drugs because they don't have side effects. They actually fix the physiology. And for example, we have our 3 major antipathogenics: Nutriodine, the Tesla activated monatomic iodine, we have Nutrisilver, and we have Allicin Med, which is one of my favorites. For our German source, Allicin Med is 200 milligrams more allicin than Alamed, and at about half the price. So you can't beat it. I mean, we don't carry Alamed anymore because we have Allicin Med, and this is a German source, really high quality supplement. I think that we're literally trying to provide a nutraceutical protocol for virtually any illness, from Lyme or dengue to prostate problems, or male andropause. And that's another biggie that we're hearing from this gentleman from Quebec. He needs to reduce his prostate, so he needs to be on the prostate flow, 1 to 2 soft gels twice a day. But he also should be taking Men's Max to release male hormone, and he should be taking hormone synergy to make sure his male hormone's not converted to female. I know of actual males who contacted me who were either taking injections or high-dose topical transdermal testosterone, high-dose, and they actually were making enough female hormone conversion. They were getting breast buds, and their female hormone levels were higher than their daughters with menarche, which is crazy. So hormone synergy will prevent that, so your male hormone stays male hormone. So these are all kind of neat things that people can do. If you want to block cancer, take Malignant Block. If you're trying to actually fight cancer and autoimmune disease, Malignant Rest and or other nutraceutical combinations. And of course, we use technology along with that as well. If you're trying to fix your gut, and we've had a person that contacted me recently with a motility disorder, we use the IBS Care carnitine, but we need to get them probiotics and things to heal their gut, like Gastro Heal and Colon Cleanse, which is going to clear their lower colon. So let's talk about this for a moment, the idea of restoring normal bowel action, normal digestive action with Digestease to restore stomach acid and pepsin and gastrozyme. It's a very common problem, especially through the holidays. Dysbiosis, small bowel overgrowth, and major bowel upset is really common through the holidays, isn't it?
Well, yeah, like you said, you're about to put a whole bunch of challenges in there, from alcohol to stress to a lot of weird food or a lot of excessive food and sugars and stuff like that. So this is going to be a common thing. And getting ready for it right now with regards to, getting the bowel functioning well. Really, the probiotics are so powerful. The Living Probiotic or Living Probiotic Ultra are really a great choice. I mean, there's a lot of things in the marketplace that people might go for, but most probiotics just don't have the clinical validation of what they're using. And
yeah, the one that we use in our Living Probiotic, and the one also in Life Support, in our Ageless, is the Roselle 6 strain from the Pasteur Institute in Paris, which is the most powerful, popular strain, and the most powerful strain on the planet is our How Are You strain called Living Probiotic Ultra. So, living better through Nutrimed living. How's that? Thanks a lot, Ryan, and hopefully people get themselves prepped up for the holidays to make them bulletproof from gut dysbiosis and cramps and weight gain and insomnia and joint pains and turning diabetic or having some horrible illness take hold of their bodies through their dietary indiscretions. Thank you, Ryan. We'll see you again on Monday. And coming back in a moment, Tim Alexander is here. And tomorrow morning, first on the schedule is Matthew Deagle, my son, Ann Morrison with the Twiland.info. And, of course, get your questions in for the firing line for answers to all your health and wellness needs. Michelle will be here, the host with the most, in hour 3 tomorrow.